الله أكبر حي على الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر حي على
I rise, giving all praises to Allah, the Father of the universe, cherisher and sustainer of all the balanced universes. I extend the highest of honors to His holy and divine Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. I extend high honors to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations, Islam. I extend high honors to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These are the 5 highest principles known to man. Islam?
Islam.
Extending high honors as well to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. Islam?
Islam.
This is also the flag of our birth. Islam, Moors?
Islam.
Extending honors to noble Sheik staff, noble Vanguard staff who keep the peace, and giving honors to you, the Ills and Bays, for without you, there is no Moorish movement. Islam, Moors?
Islam.
Praise Allah, praise Allah. Yesterday I completed my toils at work, and I was, headed to the house, and I got in, and I received a phone call from one of my Sheik brothers, brother Ankanatan Bey from Noble Temple 33. It's always good to hear from my brother, good brother. He brought to my attention that in the Final Call newspaper, its latest edition, Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple number 19, had received an honor, relative to our speaking on a panel discussion a couple weeks back with student minister Dr. Ava Muhammad. The topic was separation. So one of the brothers from the nation stopped by today and dropped off the paper. I don't know if this was already demonstrated, but if so, I'm going to do it again because it was an honor. Praise Allah. And title of the article is don't blow your turban, Mo. Project Separation Tour Stops in Black Mecca. Right? And this is the article right here. Praise Allah. Islam, Moors. Before I comment on that, one thing I would like to say is that our brothers in the Nation of Islam have been founded since 1930. Right? From 1930 to 2019, they've fared pretty well. Very well, I might say.
Very well.
They've done a lot of phenomenal ventures. They've cleaned up a lot of people. They've established a lot of businesses nationwide, thousands of acres of land, so on and so forth. They've done great. Tonight I'm not going to get into who taught who and what the origin of what. All I'm dealing with tonight, Islam family. All I'm dealing with tonight is the fact, Islam brother, is the fact that the Nation of Islam, in their doing well and in their development and growth and so on and so forth, they don't have to take time to stop and honor the Moorish Science Temple of America. They don't have to take the time to stop and honor Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Moors?
Islam.
We're instructed by our Prophet that when man honors man, he honors Allah. Islam?
Islam.
So when ones take the time to extend honors to you, Moors, we have to, just in the spirit of, Moorish hospitality, right? We have to receive it and honor it back, on the highest plane that we can, honor it on. Islam?
Islam.
Again, not being aware if this was demonstrated or not, but I'm just going to draw from a paragraph where they mentioned our temple. It says, the event had 4,700 views via Facebook Live, and as the program ended, Dr. Ava Muhammad stated in the very near future, Minister Farrakhan is going to call for a vote on separation, unquote. On Saturday, July 27th, the town hall meeting was held at Muhammad's Mosque, number 15 at 3 p.m. The event was attended by people from throughout the community and included a question and answer session about the Project Separation movement. The meeting was moderated by Sister Rona Muhammad. In addition to student ministers Ava and Sharif, Heru Ranesi-El, the Grand Governor of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple 19, was on the panel. The relationship with the nation, to me this is key. The relationship with the Nation of Islam and the Moorish Science Temple, founded by Noble Drew Ali, has been so important over the years and is growing. Brother Heru stated in his introduction, quote, "A slave with money is still a slave, especially if you do not convert it into something that is beneficial for our people." The statement set the tone as the panel started. This statement set the tone as the panel started to take questions from the audience. there were 4,400 views starting from that point on. 4,400 views via Facebook Live, and it just goes into the actual, the actual panel discussion, so on and so forth. So Islam Moors, so praise Allah for them giving honors to our holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam Moors, one thing that I know, the prophet Noble Drew Ali, our beloved prophet and angel, Islam Moors, you want to know more about that angel degree, come out to Sunday school, right? But he gives us the degree of salvation, Allah, and what?
Unity.
Islam. Now, how do we go forth with unity? How do we unify with our people? Because the prophet said he wasn't just calling Moorish Americans, right? He said what? Come all ye what?
Asiatics.
And learn the truth about your what? Nationality and birthrights. Islam. So he sent out a call for all of our people, right? Now, we have specific marching orders. Isn't that right, Brother Yosef? Act 6. We have specific work that we're called to do. Key to accomplishing that work, right, is the building of relationships. Islam, a lot of times what we miss out with our people is that, we'll seek to be right. Our forefathers are the Moors. How are we going to be wrong, right? But the prophet he says that, in describing the attributes of the higher self, he says what? It's the mother of all virtues and the harmonies of life, and breeds what?
Justice, mercy, love, right.
Justice, mercy, love, and right. And that lineup, we notice that right is last. So you got to go through justice, mercy, and love before you get a chance to be right. You see? And this is very important because a lot of times, you're gonna deal with people that don't necessarily understand the Moorish platform. They don't understand why we call Noble Drew Ali a prophet. We mean you got a prophet that came from America, from North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? It throws the sensibilities off if you were raised a Christian in this country, you grew up reading the Bible, and everything is across the water, or so we think, right? But the point is the fact that, we have to, in the spirit of building a relationship, sometimes you have to go around to people like tomorrow, like the event, the Noble Chairman demonstrated tomorrow at Biscayne Apartments, right? The community cleanup, right? That's a perfect vibration, right? To put the Moorish Americans around our people, right? Not in a preachy format. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not coming down on nobody. We ain't gonna break out a baseball bat because somebody called themselves black and bust them upside the head. We're not doing that, right? But we working together. We cleaning up, whatever. And if in the process, right, it comes up, well, what does that represent? Why do you have that on your shirt? Why do you have that on? Why? Go on to your demonstration. We're prepared. We Moors love questions. Islam? In that spirit, just so y'all know I'm not freestyling up here, right? The last chapter of your Quran, chapter 48. Let me hear Islam when you're there.
Islam.
Praise Allah. And this is a powerful chapter. This is going to what Brother Yosef demonstrated earlier, right? The title of it, anyway. Chapter 48, the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. Islam? Now, we know that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, without doubt or contradiction, was a Bible master, right? He was also a Quran of Mecca master. Islam? He was also a Vedas master. He was also an E5 master. If you know what you're looking at. Islam Moors? Because he says, I'm a universal prophet and my teachings aren't universal. Islam? So it says, the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. Instruction 1. The last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali, who was divinely prepared in due time by Allah to redeem to redeem men from their sinful ways, and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. I almost wanted to end Act 6. Instruction 2. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days, to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam. And his name is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old-time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of men, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree and return to be part itself, return to their own and be one with their Father God, Allah. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
You know, I could actually spend about 2 hours just on that instruction alone, right? But the point I want to elucidate or bring out or bring forth is the fact that, you know, he speaks about a forerunner that came in these days and times. He says, and his name was Marcus Garvey. Islam?
Islam.
All right. Now, Marcus Garvey's organization was referred to as what?
Negro.
The Universal Negro Improvement Association, right? So, you know, if we was to, you know, as our Christian brothers would say, rightly divide the name of Universal Negro Improvement Association, the forerunner was wise enough to know that the word Negro was flawed. Hence, the word coming after Negro, improvement. That the Negro needed improvement. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
All right? But the Prophet Noble Drew Ali saw fit to honor Marcus Garvey, right, in our Quran, even though his nationality had not been openly proclaimed as Moorish American, and his organization had the title Negro in it. Islam?
Islam.
The Prophet demonstrated a broad perspective of nation building, right? The Prophet was not a limited thinker by far, right? And one thing we have to be cautious of in our building is, you know, locking any of our people outside of coming inside to the seven. You know, or in other words, closing that circle, because remember, our circle is gated for a reason. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
However our people choose to come in from whichever direction they can come. Islam?
Islam.
But we know, you know, all light comes from the east. Islam?
Islam.
You know, and east is not necessarily directional if you know what you're dealing with. All right? But, you know, they say, you know, Prophet says it's the source from which all light is supposed to have come. Islam?
Islam.
Right? But the whole thing is that, you know, the fez and what it represents, there's nowhere on earth that this fez is not recognized, right? There's not an Asiatic organization that you can go to with your fez on and not be recognized more, especially if they've been around for at least 80, 90, 100 years. Islam?
Islam.
You know? So, you know, we have to conduct ourselves in a way that's befitting of that. Islam?
Islam.
You know? There's certain unities that are taking place on a national level between Asiatic organizations, right? 5 years ago, 7 years ago, definitely 10 years ago, this was kind of unheard of. These groups had their own meetings in their own space, and the two shall not come together, right? But due to, you know, a handful of brave leaders, you know, between organizations, we started attending each other's meetings. You know what I'm saying? And with patience, demonstrating patience, because their doctrinal aspect may not read as ours, right? But through fidelity and love of a greater union for our people, you sit through it and then you support the uplifting acts that they do, right? If our Prophet's teachings are universal, there's certain things that will be found in all organizations that we can all agree on, you know? Like we can all agree that murder is wrong.
That's right.
If you're civilized anyway, right? We can all agree that harming children is wrong, right? I think that any man, regardless of his ideology, if he found that a child was harmed, would do what he have to set that right. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
When we were in our true state, you know, a man didn't have to be taught to set that straight. He knew inherently that it was his duty as a man to protect and defend. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
You know, key to nationality, this is one of the things that nationality teaches. You know, it teaches you that, you know, one of the key aspects of governing a civilization, you know, that, you know, the heads of state or the, you know, the leaders of that must protect its own citizens and or subjects, right? So as a father, you must protect your family. It's not optional. That is your obligation. Islam?
Islam.
Now, as a father, if you're a part of a society, right, or a community or an organization, it is that society, community, or organization's job to make sure that each father is doing what he's supposed to do. Islam?
Islam.
That the father has the tools that he needs, right, to keep the family structure together so they can thrive, because if one of our families is weakened, that weakens the nation. Islam?
Islam.
I'm going to make a reference. It's going to seem like a weird reference. But y'all are grown. Y'all be able to handle it. Adolf Hitler, in his book, Mein Kampf, this is his autobiography, right? If I were to bring Mein Kampf up here and not tell you what it was, or who wrote it, and read from it, you'd think I was reading Marcus Garvey or Noble Drew Ali. And it's in terms of the sense of nationalism that he was speaking of. And he was saying that, he made reference to that, like the woman's womb. He said, though the current state of mind is that it's her womb and it belongs to her, and that's just it. The broader ramification of that is that her womb actually belongs to the nation, because whatever comes out of her womb affects the nation one way or another. Islam? So he put forth teachings that, that they would come together to make sure that all the children were nationalized and had a nationalistic mind state, right? People tend to forget that all the children that were birthed out of that period, their great-great-grandchildren are still alive now. That experiment had its, had its development, had its growth, right? Clearly we don't have to use that model, right? But the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, all these, powerful brothers who taught nation building, right? Taught us with that mind state in mind. Islam? Let's move forward. Instruction 4. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc. Charter. What is a charter? Anyone? Is this not a charter?
Indeed.
What does this instrument do for this particular temple? Islam?
Islam, it gives authority to confirm the degrees of nationality,
Islam.
citizenship for anyone who attends the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Islam. Exactly. I thought you was going to quote it verbatim. You hit it. You said, empower, to confer, initiate, and empower. Islam. Islam. Also confer the degrees of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. The Prophet referred to those as degrees. He's not just talking about the teaching, but the degree of Jesus, right? The degree of Muhammad, the degree of Confucius, right? So on and so forth, all true and divine prophets. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was a true and divine prophet. So can you demonstrate the degree of Noble Drew Ali? Islam? He gives you the degree of Marcus Garvey. Can you demonstrate the degree of Marcus Garvey? Islam was? And what is a degree? A degree is a step, right? The Prophet tells us that, the master leaves his footprints clearly cut so that those who follow know that the master went that way, right? So in your step, when you demonstrate the degrees of these great masters, you're leaving an example so the people can look and be like, okay, well, I've read about Marcus Garvey, but I'm seeing Marcus Garvey right there. Islam was? Praise Allah. Moving forward, instruction 5, that the world may hear and know the truth that among the descendants of Africa, there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of men under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. What is the word redemption?
To buy back.
To buy back, to purchase back, right? I use the example all the time of a pawn shop. You pawn your ring because you strapped for finance, right? Pawn it, give you a ticket, right? So it's evidence of your claim. Is that right, Mo? Is that the language? That's my lawman right here. I gotta check with our resident lawman, right? But it's evidence of your claim. And then when you come back, you show forth and prove, okay, well, so you can redeem, that which was lost. Islam was? But the Prophet tells us not a word is lost. Islam? So this is what we're about in the Moorish Science Temple of America, to redeem or to purchase our people back, right? And, we have evidence of our claim. Islam was? Inside of here, we got the width and the breadth of our empire that was lost. Or so they say was lost. Islam? Chapter 47, the Prophet gives it to you, lays it out, And it's not just here in America, right? Talking about the northeast and the southwest, northeast and the southwestern shores of Africa, so on and so forth. All across Africa, even mentions some parts of Asia, across the great Atlantis, into the Americas. Islam? So the work that we have to do as Moorish Americans is very, very broad. I saw it was a clip of a sister from South Africa, and she was giving a demonstration on 1885, the Berlin Conference, right? And she was talking about the various different countries that are in Africa. And she said before 1885, none of these countries existed. There was no Togo. There was no, Sheik? There was no Benin. None of these countries existed. Islam? So what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey set in motion in the early 20s is reverberating throughout the planet. Islam Moors? All right? The language they gave us, the demonstrations that they gave us is a universal demonstration. It's a universal language. Muammar Gaddafi, may Allah be pleased with him, right? With his soul. Before he passed form, he gave a demonstration. He says, we should eliminate the various different countries in Africa. Make them 53 different, at that time 53, different states, right? With one central government, with one president over the entire continent. So that way the Europeans can't come and divide us. Who did he get that from? Whose demonstration is that? Literally verbatim. Marcus Garvey, Philosophies and Opinions, right? So Muammar Gaddafi was demonstrating Garvey. Islam was? And we already demonstrated before how Mao Zedong, right? You know, the Vietnamese, demonstration. Mao Zedong in the early days was attending UNIA meetings with Marcus Garvey in America. Went back and led a whole revolution in his country. Islam Wars? See, salvation has always been with you. Stop looking overseas. It's been with you, right?
That's right.
When Nelson Mandela was in prison and the world had forgot about him, he threw him in that prison, nobody was talking about him, right? In the 90s hip hop, that's my generation. I'm a 90s hip hop person. In the 90s hip hop, where there was a consciousness in hip hop, everybody was free Mandela, free Mandela. They started doing it in the lyrics, right? Then it caught on because hip hop is global, right? People heard that, was, oh yeah, free Mandela. Islam? And the people in South Africa woke up and remembered one of their political prisoners that they had pretty much forgotten about. We did that over here. Islam Wars? What's our brother? Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana, 1956, same year Morocco got its independence, right? Was attending university in New York, right? Sitting with John Henrik Clark and all these various different ones here, the masterminds that was discussing the history of our people and African history and African-centered, ideals and so on and so forth. And it gave him a holy zeal to go back to his country to work for liberation, to run the British out of Ghana. Islam Wars? See, when you're talking about a Moorish legacy, see, various different people sat at the feet of Marcus Garvey and Noble Drew Ali and took pieces of it and ran off and did their own demonstrations. Islam? And that's fine. Because, as parents, right? Them already know where I'm going. He already know where I'm going. As parents, we give our children a full holistic teaching, right? We strive to anyway, right? But they take the part that they like and the parts that they don't like, they don't shed it all the way. They just push it further back in their brain to a later time. And when they go forth in the world, sometimes we get a little disappointed. You ain't doing it how I told you to do it. I know, but this is how I like to do it. Oh, praise Allah. You'll find out. Islam Wars? Well, it's kind of the similar thing with these various different organizations that broke off from the Prophet, right? They'll be able to enjoy various different successes, so on and so forth, but they'll reach a point where they'll realize, wait a minute, we're missing something, right? The vital aspects that we're missing is your nationality and your true and divine creed. Islam Wars?
Islam.
Yeah, we founded Christianity, the original Christianity. We know that, right? We're aware of the Coptic Church, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. We're familiar with all of that, right? But the Prophet was specific, which it gets down to that in here, where it talks about Christianity, that, as it was, about the European, as it was prepared by their forefathers. He's, speaking about a specific type of Christianity that was deadly for our people. When he took the Bible, right, and in contradiction to the description of the people in the book, created European pictures of the people in the book, forbade our people to read. So, even look at people now when you give them a book, right? I'm a publisher, that's what I do, I write books. A lot of times if I'm demonstrating, I got a table set up when I'm selling books, give a person a book, first thing they do is flip through and look for pictures. First, before reading anything. Islam? That's why our brother Chairman is he's done us a beautiful solid, because this mastermind right here is an artist, and he's done a lot of the works, the artwork that you see around us, right? So he helps me to help our people by giving them an image of themselves to look at in the book, right? And the images capture them, then they're interested in what the words say. Islam? That is a byproduct of the trauma of what was done.
It's powerful work, though.
Oh, praise Allah, man. Praise Allah. But I had a Moorish American one time ask me, I wrote a book called Who Was Allah to the Moors? And, the book's about this thing, right? So the Moor, he said, respect to him, I love him. He said, well, how you gonna write a book that's bigger than our Quran? I said, well, Moor, let me ask you this. I said, well, You've heard of the Quran of Mecca? He said, yes. I said, do you know how many volumes of literature that was inspired by that one book alone? In Mali, they found 1 million manuscripts buried underground, written on every subject known to man: astronomy, mathematics, so on and so forth. Matter of fact, there's an article that just surfaced about a librarian from Mali, right? Who when Al-Qaeda, some of the Al-Qaeda troops came into Mali and they were burning books and all kinds of stuff, he took and hid a lot of this stuff and saved it. Sounds like a more to me. That's the more, hold on, y'all think I'm playing. Let me read the prophet to you. Moorish literature, religious controversy. The prophet says, pardon self, not religious controversy, Moorish costume ball. 17. The prophet says, the article entitled Moorish Costume Ball. He said, when the more barbaric tribes from the north were ravaging all the countries, they, meaning the Moors, were permitted to enter. It was the forefathers of the Moorish Americans and their near kin. So it was the Moors and a bunch of other Asiatic groups and their near kin that saved the historic records that were threatened during the days when the burning of libraries was a fad for despotic soldiers. Still going on. Islam wars? Islam. Because key to controlling a population is to burn their literature. You got to get rid of that stuff. You can't let them read this. First of all, you can't let them read. If you can pull that off, that's even better. Islam? Because they can't link themselves back. One of the most important things you can teach those babies is how to read and understand the meaning of words and understand the root meanings of those words, right? So that way they can break it down themselves. They don't have to depend on what people say. Islam wars? Islam. Which is why the literacy rate in Islam is like 98% globally, right? Because to understand, to be a good Muslim, you have to be able to read what Allah said. Islam wars? Islam. All right, moving forward. Instruction 6. We as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa. Islam or do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and the salvation of mankind on earth. Islam or when I had the honor of being on the panel discussion, I drew a lot from the Prophet and from the Quran, just to kind of introduce the Prophet to the situation. I read this particular instruction. Brothers in the nation, ancestors, lost their minds. I got like 3 words in, and brother yelled out, good teaching. And bear me witness, Islam. I said, good teaching. I got through, and when I got to the part about do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, a sister said, MGT. Islam? See more what I'm saying? What I'm saying is that we've been armed in such a way, and a lot of times we don't realize what we have. Prophet says it's not in the possessing of things, but knowing how to use them. Islam or? You can have a cure to AIDS. If you don't know how to apply it properly in a proper dosage based on the degree that the person is suffering, it won't work. Islam? You can have the keys to the salvation of your people. But if you have not been groomed in order to deliver that properly, to administer it, because in order to administer it properly, you gotta study the symptoms of the person first. You know the general symptoms, but they might suffer from something specific. Brother Yosef, we talked about the prophet's oil, right? We ain't gonna talk about what it tastes like. That's our inside joke, right? But you gave me the demonstration, like it says on the label. It has to be applied in specific dosages, just like the prophet's tea, right? Certain dosages in order to achieve the result. Islam? This is why the prophet tells you to attend your meetings and attend them promptly, right? So that way you can learn the different ways that the remedy can be administered. Islam? The Sunday school was to teach you the inner mysteries behind what the Friday lesson said. Islam? Right? He says, out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation, right? So, having these teachings you're being well armed with them and standing on your foundation like you're supposed to, you could go anywhere and raise those people up. I mean, because we're supposed to get to the point where I could be like, Brother Yosef, I was contacted by a representative of Mali. Brother, we're gonna fund you. We're gonna send you to Mali more. We need you to go and demonstrate the prophet. We'll leave you there for about 6 months. Right, gonna issue a temporary charter, boy. Get it set up over there and let us know. And you take this and you have to adapt this to Mali. Right? We might have to have you set up a Moorish Science Temple of Mali. Have we ever thought on those levels?
Yes.
Islam? You know, some of the early charters of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science said the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the world. That was the original one. Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the world. The prophet was demonstrating global degrees. The prophet went down to Mexico. He went to Cuba with translators and was recognized, right? So that was the beginning of his work. So he took steps to show us the directions that we had to go. Islam? I remember I was watching so many years ago Democracy Now! I don't know if y'all familiar with that show. There was the almost civil wars has been going on in Mexico with the cartels and all that. So it was real bad. I think it was like either in Juarez or Mexico City, one or two, I can't remember. But it was real bad. It was smoke everywhere. It was like explosions going off, gunshots, all that. And out of nowhere, and this is, I swear on my mother, right? It was a Mexican brother. He was waving a flag. He was waving a flag. He was waving a flag. And in the midst of everything, when the smoke cleared, it was this flag. Why would he do that? Why would he be seeking assistance from these people? Because this flag represents a people. Islam wars?
Islam.
So why would he be seeking assistance in the midst of a chaotic war from these people? Islam wars? You could contact Democracy Now! See if you can get the archive footage. Islam? But what I'm saying is that the world is waiting on the lessons that we have. Islam? And these practice sessions, because that's what these meetings are. They're practice sessions, right? There'll be a time when it's enough for practicing. We gotta get in the field. Islam? You know, and you have to be the prophet to those people. Islam wars? Our babies have to learn to recognize who Noble Drew Ali is. Islam wars? There's not a Saudi Arabian citizen that does not know who King Abdulaziz is. King Abdulaziz was the founder of their empire. Praise Allah. I'm looking at the baby, I'm sorry. King Abdulaziz is the founder of their empire. You know, why we call it Saudi Arabia, okay? All of them know him. All of them give honor to him as founding that, right? But if we showed the average ones of our children a picture of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, would they know who he was? Islam wars? Islam, brother. That's a vanguard right there. That's one of the soldiers. I got some work for you later on, brother. I'm talking to the young people in the room. Y'all see this man right here? Right? Go ahead, brother. Okay, brother thinking. This is a very important man right here. You should always remember him. Okay, look at him. See that man right there? Remember in Sunday school when we did the prayer? Y'all remember that? Remember how I fixed your feet? Put your feet on a square on that 45? Y'all remember that? Look how he's standing. You see his feet? Don't that look like how your feet were standing on Sunday? Islam? This is prophet. Let me hear y'all say prophet. Speak up. Prophet.
Prophet.
Noble.
Noble.
Drew.
Drew.
Ali.
Ali.
Prophet.
Prophet.
Noble.
Noble.
Drew.
Drew.
Ali.
Ali.
One more time. Prophet.
Prophet.
Noble.
Noble.
Drew.
Drew.
Ali.
Ali.
Islam. Now who is this? Who is he?
Prophet. Drew Ali.
Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Takbir. 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 Allah is the greatest, Moses. See, if we're not doing that work where our babies can recognize the ones that did greatness amongst ourselves, our bar will be low. Right? They have to know the great ones that did great things amongst our people. Right? I run a barbershop during the day. Right? I had a brother that was here earlier. He had 3 boys. Right? 2 of them had, the box fade, but they were unkept, hadn't been to the shop in about 3 months, right? So every time each one of them got in the chair, the father was like, oh, look at that old nappy hair you got. Look at that old, I can't stand that hair. Oh, look at, I said, brother, peace, brother. Don't do that to the baby, man. Well, I mean, but look at that. So I'm gonna show you something. So I sprayed it a little bit, picked it out, brushed it a little bit. I said, come here. I said, touch it. He touched it. Well, why is it so soft? I said, brother, we have the good hair. You just have to know how to maintain it. Islam? If I got you a brand new 2019 Phantom car, right? But you didn't know how often to change the oil. I didn't give you the owner's manual. You didn't know how to maintain it. It'll look nice for a minute, right? Till you start getting them knocks and pings in the engine, like what's going on? Islam? You have to know how to maintain what you've been blessed with. Islam was? That's what nationality and divine creed does for you, right? And when you're able to manifest that properly, you get a benefit like Brother Joseph Anfield Ill said, since he proclaimed his nationality, brother's never been sick. Islam was? Let me draw something from the forerunner. Can I teach y'all somebody else? Y'all ready? Ready to learn? Say the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. For short, you can call him Marcus Garvey. Islam? That's whose words I'm going to read right now. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
And there's a reason why I'm doing it 3 times. Right? Something about that repetition. Repetition is the mother of mastery. Islam, Morris? In lesson 7, a message to the people by Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Lesson 7 is called character, right? It says men and women who want to be of use to themselves and humanity, universal language, right? And humanity must have good character. Good character means the demonstration of the kind of behavior that meets the moral precepts of a civilization. The standard that is laid down by the society of the time in which you live and which forms a part of and guides that very character. If you do not live up to those standards in the highest sense, you will not be respected by that society. Your mission in the society for useful work will fall to pieces. The greatest prop to character is honesty. What's your second principle?
Truth.
Islam, right? And as you know, the Prophet said, vigor and proportion and so on and so forth. These are that. What that is to what health is to the body, so is honesty to the soul. Honesty is the best policy. Let no one believe that you are dishonest. If they believe you are dishonest, you are doomed. You will never be able to rise to a position of respect and trust except by some mere accident. You must live so clean that everybody can see the cleanliness of your life. The Assistant Grand Sheik is Assistant Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Never let the people think that you are a liar, but the contrary. Let them believe that you always speak the truth and live up to it. Any conduct that your community or society condemns, be careful not to violate that rule of law because you will lose the respect of your community. Never borrow money unless you intend to pay it back. Pay it back as quickly as you can. If you give excuses when you should be paying, those you are obligated to will think you are a trickster. Even though you subsequently pay them, they will be loath to trust you a second time. Even if you have to make sacrifices, pay your debts. Because when you don't pay your debts, people will talk about it. And sooner or later, everybody in the community knows about it and you are ruined. It is a good policy to keep a good and honorable name. It is good credit. Read your chapter of justice in your Quran. People will trust you on a good name. They will ask you for the cash right on the spot and count it to the last farthing if your name is bad. People who trust you will almost take money from you without counting it. When you have lost that much confidence, you are a marked object. Marked, Negro, black, and color. You are a marked object, and you may as well move from that town or city or community to start a life afresh somewhere else where nobody knows you, where you may practice the higher principles and retrieve your name. Never move into a nearby or adjoining community if you have lost your name. In the first place, go far away from it. No leader who is dishonest can hold his leadership. Nobody will follow him. Let your good character shine so that men will see and talk about it. Morality is upheld everywhere in civilization. Don't be immoral in your community. Somebody will tell on you and expose you. And the homes of the community will be closed against you, and the respectable people will shun you. If you have to be immoral because of your nature is weak, then hide it, what the prophet said. Keep it out the eyes of the public. Islam? Keep it within closed doors and be sure nobody knows about it. If you read good books and think loftily, you will not be immoral. If you are intelligent, you will not be immoral, because immorality leads to disease, pain and suffering, and ultimately premature death. Brother Yosef. An immoral person, not that I'm referencing you, I'm quoting you, Islam. That sounded wrong when I heard it. An immoral person cannot find good company, because no good person wants to take the chance with immorality. Those who cater to your immorality must be people who have no character and who have nothing to lose. They must either be sick or diseased themselves and therefore don't care. No respectable man or woman who cares about his or her future is going to be indiscriminate, because that is taking chances. Therefore, when you find a person of immoral habits, it is someone who has lost all proportions of decency, because dealing with extremes, right? And health, and doesn't care. Such a person is a social danger. Now he's talking about the society, right? Last paragraph that I'm going to read. Sensible people do not give themselves away for nothing, but sick and diseased people, like a drowning man, catch at a straw. Never be seen with those people in your community. Never be seen with a person of bad character. You will be roped in, and even though your character is good, it will also suffer because of your association with that person. Islam, Morris? Now, our forerunner was hard on us. Islam? But there's an understanding that goes with that too, because he knew we were coming to him in all kinds of states, right? I don't know too many of us that came to the prophet perfect, right? Prophet gives a demonstration about the broken blades of grass, right? But it says if you go out and pick all the blades that aren't broken, what harvest would we have? Islam? So it's the same thing. So, whatever conditions our people have, we leave our temple doors open to come in to apply a remedy to your condition. Islam? When babies are born, it's a baby in the room right now, praise Allah. Islam? That baby is perfect as the mother and father. Islam? All right? But that baby right there, she don't know nothing about hate. Islam, Morris? She don't know racism. She don't know poverty. She don't know sadness. Islam, Morris? Allah forbid, right? But if she did learn about them, those would be things she learned from the society at large. It is our duty, because those are y'all's children, but those are our children. All right? They say it takes a village. Islam, Morris? And we put a hedge of protection around all those who are connected to us. Islam, Morris? When y'all hurt, we hurt. Islam? According to the true and divine creed of Islam of our forefathers, when there was a marriage about to take place, they would come to the imam or the grand sheikh or whoever it was, and he would give them the principles, the Quranic principles on what marriage was, right? To let them know the standard to which the marriage would be held and which each individual would be held. Islam, Morris? Because again, if the marriage was aching, if the marriage was hurting, it would hurt the group. So imagine if we were just a tribe and we lived amongst ourselves, right? Everything that everybody does is either to the benefit or the detriment of the tribe as a whole. Islam? I'm a whole body, right? And I feel good doing this demonstration up here. Praise Allah, right? But if my shoulder was hurting, I'd be able to demonstrate, but it's not 100% demonstration. Because somewhere in my subconscious mind is focused on that pain. And we got to get to that later. Islam? So a certain part of me can't give up what I'm supposed to give up because I'm focused on that pain. Islam? Well, that aching shoulder might be a sister in our community, right? That don't know who she is, that had wrong done to her in her childhood and never had nobody to square it, to help her get better from that condition. As a result of that, like the forerunner says, she becomes inadvertently a social danger. Islam, Morris? I have several homeless people that I deal with, in the community. I have a sister that comes up, and I'm pretty much about the only person that can talk her down when she goes super emotional. She came up here just crying down. The chairman bear me witness, he was in the chair, I was cutting his hair. And she came up, she was crying and cussing, excuse me, more. And I went outside and I talked to her. 3 minutes, she was feeling better, walking down the street. That ain't me, that's these lessons. That's the prophet, that's what he taught me. Islam, Morris? Prophet, the forerunner, Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, taught us, love all your people, right? Never allow any of your people to feel as though that they're alone and friendless. Islam was? Always show the person that's in the most humble station in life the same love that you would show to somebody that had $1 million. Islam was? The people will never forget you for that, right? And if they ever get in a better position, where do you think they're gonna come? Islam wars, all right? So this is the work that we're called to do. Prophet Noble Drew Ali charged us to go, and carry this message to the four corners of the world, to all nations. Islam wars, and it's a beautiful work once you get a good handle on it, and there's a lot of you that, like I said, we'll be sending you, like Jesus said before, I send you forth as sheep amongst the wolves, because the deal is that you have to take this holy teaching, and that's the degree of the sheep or the lamb, right? You have to take this holy teaching to those who need it the most, right? See, there are those that, that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for Masonic secrets. Islam wars? Anybody seen the Fox Theater downtown? You ever seen that? Fox Theater, right? What does it look like? Islam war?
It's a mosque.
Islam war?
Yeah, Islam.
They put crosses on the dome. That hurt.
Yeah.
That hurt, boy. Oh, that hurt. But I went for the 75th anniversary of it some years ago when they had it. And I had my family and the babies and everything. I had my fezzes on, everybody turbaned up, whatever. And we're in line, and there was a group of European Shriners off to the side. And they were talking, they had the little Corvette cars. Y'all know the degree of that? Why they demonstrate the Corvette? You know what the Corvette was, right? When your Moorish forefathers, this is nothing to brag about, this is just history. When your Moorish forefathers used to rob the European ships, yeah, your forefathers did that. We would pull up alongside the ships, and we'd have smaller ships that we'd let down, and the Moors would get in the smaller ships and get to their ship, board it, and rob it. Those smaller ships were called Corvette. In English, it's Corvette, right? So the Shriners, they get in these little, you ever seen them in a parade? They drive, so that's the degree, right? But anyway, so I'm in line 8, they're next to the little Corvettes or whatever, and they look over at me, and I looked at them, I said, they dropped their heads, a group of 12 of them, they dropped their heads and walked off. Islam wars? See, there's a power, when the Prophet talked about that saving power. There are those that are acting in your stead while we're asleep, right? They're acting as you, ruling the nations, running the government. You okay, sister? That sister grabbed her third eye and shook her head. They're acting as us. Islam? What the Prophet said, all except the olive hue which they cannot get. That's Noble Drew Ali. Islam wars? But the day is coming, like I always ask, Morris, are you ready to rule again? There's a power that comes in ruling. Islam? Like if I was to say, do you know how to hold court? What does that mean? What does that phrase mean? Do you know how to hold court? When the Sultan, what's the title given to our ruler in Morocco?
Sultan.
When the Sultan would hold court, that's when he entertained the representatives of the various different nations. Islam wars? Do you know it was considered improper protocol to turn your back on the Sultan? So if you got in the Sultan's presence, when he dismissed you, you took 3 steps backwards, then hit the 180 and walked away. You didn't just automatically just turn your back. That was considered rude and you'd be brought up on charges and so. It's customary law. Islam? You have to know how to hold court. But in order to know how to hold court, you have to know your own pedigree, what was brought to you, and you have to know the ways of your forefathers. Islam wars? So when you get in a room with other dignitaries, right, you represent all the power and majesty of your forefathers, right? It's more than the doctrine. See, teaching the teacher, that's one thing. Or giving the instruct, that's one thing. But knowing how to hold court is another thing. Because when you hold in court, that's when you're demonstrating the Bey. B-E-Y, that's when you're the governor. Islam? See, by my holy name, I'm a ill. Ranesi-El, right? By title, I'm a Bey. As Grand Governor, that makes me a Bey. Islam wars? So I had to learn how to govern. Islam wars? And it's a process of knowing how to do such. And the Prophet gives you all those degrees. All of that is within conferring the degrees of Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and Confucius. Especially Confucius. Especially Muhammad and Confucius. Because Muhammad brought the restriction of the law. And, Confucius brought honoring the ancestral ways. How your ancestors ate, but how did they eat? You know what I'm saying? How did your Moorish forefathers, when they prepared a meal, they set a meal out, you'll see that they take a towel and place it over their left shoulder. And they will wipe their hands on them. Before the meal began, they take it's like a pitcher filled with rose water. And you stick your hands out like this. There'll be a bowl underneath. And they'll put the water over your hands. You wash your hands and say a brief prayer. Place it over your face, smelling the rose water as you go. And you say, in the name of Allah, or in Arabic, you say, Bismillah, and then you eat. Islam Moors, and the food was brought out in courses. The Moors started that, right? 5, 6 different courses, and it's building as it goes. Islam, and the host eats last, because he has to make sure that his guests are satisfied. He wait, do you need anything? And you sit in, because the master, that's when the master becomes the servant. Islam Moors, the Prophet says, is not the master of the house more honorable than its walls. Islam, I give honors to the reincarnated prophet, the brother Sheik Heru Ranesi-El. That's one of his teachings. He was real big on the customs of the Moors. So there's a lot of different things that the Prophet Noble Raleigh put on him that we still do now. The fact that I'm up here with a beard demonstrating the Moor Science Temple of America, that's the reincarnated prophet. Because the brothers in the Prophet's time didn't wear beards. That was the reincarnated prophet. He brought that because he said our forefathers wore them. Islam Moors, the capes. The Moorish capes that the Moors do, like on the picture up there. John Gibbons, you see the picture of him with the Islam Moors? The customs of our forefathers. And we have to go in and unveil those customs and adapt them to our situation in the present to cultivate and to civilize our people. Islam Moors? Last thought, key to being a Moorish American is cultivation and civilization. Islam Moors? We have to know how to dress, how to walk, how to talk, when not to talk. Islam Moors? What to say? This is a living culture. This is not some storefront organization that you go to on Friday. If you think that's what this is, you're in the wrong mind state, within this temple, right? When you proclaim your nationality, you're taking on an entire culture. Islam Moors? There's some last aspects we still got to put in place. What's the Moorish food? What's the Moorish dance? What is the Moorish music? So when we throw events, right, commemorating our great ones, what are we going to listen to? The dance tells the story of the people. That's what dancing is for. Isn't that right, Brother Khalid?
Yes.
Islam, dances are very significant.
It is.
Absolutely. Music, very significant. In the Bembe, they play certain instruments. Shango, they bring out certain drums, don't they? Islam. The bata, right? Yes. Specific drums. You can't just play any drum for that particular Orisha. Different school of thought. But nevertheless, Islam Moors? But the point is that this was the way of our forefathers. You have to put these things in place. So you go to those that are adept at culture in that regard, and you task them with bringing that to us and then teaching it to us as a group. Islam? So when the flag is hoisted and the holy day, the highest of holy days that we have, whatever, you're supposed to, break that out with the highest form of ceremony and pomp. Islam Moors? So praise Allah, Moors. Islam Moors. Are there any questions from our visitors? Sister Brenda, we don't consider you a visitor. It's your second time here. You ain't really a visitor. And the young ones, y'all, this is y'all home now. Peace, my brother. Welcome. Your name is?
Terrence.
Brother Terrence. Pleasure to meet you, brother Heru, the Grand Governor of the Temple. You all are always welcome, right? Consider this your home, right? We have a lot to do as a people, and we'd rather have you with us doing the work. You understand what I'm saying, Morris? Is there anything that anybody heard tonight that they thought wouldn't be good for our people? Islam? So why not assist in the work? That's something that we do as a people that we have to break ourselves out of. We'll hear something that has the potentiality for greatness for our people, but we'll let somebody else take care of it. Islam, Morris? All right. Just want to read something to you real quick, and then I'll lower the meeting. There's something referred to as, and I draw from about every 3 to 4 months, I'll bring it back out. Ways to kill an organization. Ways to kill almost any organization. Pay attention to these. Number 1, don't attend the meetings, but if you do, arrive late. 2, this is the ways to kill the organization, right? Be sure to leave before the meeting is closed. 3, never have anything to say at the meeting, wait till you get outside. 4, when at the meeting, vote to do everything, then go home and do nothing. It sounds like they wrote this for us, didn't it? 5, the next day, Islam, brother. Islam. He home, he's fine. Let him run. As long as he don't hit the camera. 6, take no part in the organization's affairs. 7, be sure to sit in the back so you can talk freely to another member. 8, get all the organization will give you, but don't give the organization anything. 9, never ask anyone to join the organization. 10, at every opportunity, threaten to resign and try to get others to do so also. 11, talk cooperation, but don't cooperate. 12, if asked to help, say you don't have time. 13, never read anything pertaining to the organization. 14, never accept an office. It is easier to criticize than to do things. 15, if appointed to a committee, never give any time or service to it. 16, if there are finances to pay, just ignore it. 17, don't do any more than you have to, and when others willingly and unselfishly use their ability to help the good cause along, then complain that the organization is run by a clique. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
All right? So these are things and attributes that we often find our people engaged in that we must indeed break ourselves out of. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
And with that, I will lower the meeting. Islam?
Islam.
Islam?
Islam.
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 Moorish Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali founder, Chicago, Illinois, March 11th, 1929. A warning from the Prophet to be read in every meeting. She's on it. That's a Grand Sheikah right there. Just letting you know. A warning from the Prophet to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the Prophet or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam?
Islam.
Islam?
Islam.
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 All praises are due to Allah and the highest of honors, to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
How's everyone on this holy night?
All well.
All is truly well. I pray Allah that, we may have imparted something that, that would, that you can use to change your lives. Islam, Morris? Change is a good thing, right? When you're coming from a position of Negro, black, and colored, right? When you come into the stage of fruition, you realize that truth changes not, right? But when you're living in the life of falsehood, right, you're forced to make changes. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
All right? So we find ourselves in a position where we have to shake the dust off our feet and do better, right? And be better, right? And care, and love one another, right? And challenge each other to do better. Islam? Because a person doesn't love you if they don't challenge you to do better. Islam?
Islam.
So, praise Allah. It did my heart good at Sunday school when Sister Brenda told us that the children are homeschooled. I said, wow, praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Islam, Morris?
Islam.
You just don't know I'm quite sure you do know the benefits that come therefrom. Islam?
Islam.
Because you can inject so many things into their curriculum. You can make these lessons part of every part. Islam? You're not bound solely to the Georgia State curriculum, right? Though it is good to teach the lessons that's on the Georgia State curriculum. It's good to get that too. Islam, Morris? All right? Because you're going to go forth amongst the nations of the earth. So you got to know what they say about Columbus, even though we know the truth about Columbus. Islam, Morris? You have to know what they teach about that. You have to know their mentality, what they push in that, and their reasons for pushing it. But then you also know that we were already here. Millions of us. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
You have to know that what they teach about the slave trade, right? But you also know that, they didn't just take ones from Africa. They're taking ones from America, sending them that way too. And you got to know that all of us didn't come that way as well. Islam Moors?
Islam.
But again, the work that y'all are doing with the babies, praise Allah. We just want to assist in y'all's work. Islam Moors, you know? And it's a beautiful thing. And the light that I see in the baby's eyes, I see it in all of them. But I see certain gifts in certain ones. You know, and you have to teach that specifically. You have to teach to the gift, you know, to unfold it, because if not, the child is smart enough to, oh, well, nobody's paying attention to it, I'll bury it. Then they get older and get depressed and don't know why. Suffer from anxiety and don't know why. You understand what I'm saying? You know, that's when you were forced to bury the gift that Allah gave you to benefit earth. It's like, nah, don't do that, that don't make money, do this. Islam Moors, you know? So we want to, you know, monitor, observe, right? And we will always come to the parents. Have y'all considered this for this specific child? You know, and we have different masters of different disciplines all throughout the city and throughout the country. To get them all kind of help and mentoring, whatever. Islam? Because this is a complete program that was brought to us by our Prophet Noble Ali. Islam Moors? So, you know, without, you know, belaboring the point, because I get up here, I'm on Noble Ali Sheiks. I'll keep y'all in here till the sun come up. But that violates the law somewhere, I think. So with that, I'll yield the floor. And with that, I'll close, and you know, the way I greeted you. Islam Moors. Please rise, face the east, which is right ahead of you. Parents, can I have the babies come up and do the prayer with me? Is that all right? Young children, can y'all come up front? All right. I remember standing, woo, they on it. They went right on the square. I'm just letting y'all know that. They jumped right on the square. I'm looking, yeah. Y'all remember 5 on the left, 2 on the right. There we go, brother. that's my more right there. All right. Raise 5 on the left, 2 on the right, invoking the sacred presence of the 7 Elohim that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. Please repeat after me. Allah,
Allah,
the Father of the universe,
the Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
the Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day.
and by day.
Through his holy prophet,
Through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam.
Islam.
Praise Allah. Now that's how that prayer supposed to sound, Moors. Islam, brother. Ooh, remember? You remember? Don't squeeze it. Just squeeze, don't shake it. There it is.
حي
Islam.
على الصلاة الله أكبر